All right. Alan Boston, we're back. Hey, Alan, you just said something I thought was interesting. You said going to turn your record player off. Did you actually mean record player, vinyl record player off, right?
Yes, sir. I bought with last year's basketball profits, I finally decided rather than just paying people back and losing the rest of it, I bought a turntable.
Okay. And where do you buy the records at? Do they sell them online?
My friend, I have a very close friend who buys and sells records for a living. He actually goes to like Salvation Army and what's that scumbag place that claims that they give to charity, but they don't. They're all over the place.
Really?
Goodwill.
Oh, okay.
So they all people donate, and then sometimes he goes in there and he knows what he's looking for. He found a $10,000 album he bought for $1. Like,
oh wow,
absolutely amazing, yeah. So he when I tell him what I'm looking for, or he tells me you should buy this and just put it away somewhere. He knows what he's doing. So, I was listening to an album by a group called Audience, who I've never heard of before. The album's called House on the Hill, and it's been this cult. It's known by a lot, but not to the masses, and it's just terrific. It got every bit of praise it got. It deserves it and more. It's a fantastic album.
I got you.
The system is excellent, and it's good to handicap by. Like when there's a struggle to have music in the background, it's a good way to because music is healing. Like at some point, vibrations are going to be what heals, not medicine. Although Big Pharma will tell you to take all these pills that don't do shit. There's better, cheaper ways to do it. And since music can actually trigger stuff that nothing else can, I think that people talk about the vibrations of the world. I think that'll be they'll find something that's very healing with music. Directed like therapy. A lot of therapy is done with music, so that's why I play music that to handicap by. It's actually kind of new. I've never done it before, but that's why I had it on. I was doing tomorrow's games and see what other losers I can come up with.
Well, this week was a rougher week, I guess, right? So you're maybe
it's the stuff sucked. That's what's worrisome. Losing's no big deal, but when the work is just completely out to sea, it might be time to rethink things. The game has changed quite a bit, and maybe I've not been able to change with it. That's I have moments of brilliance, but it's just been I'm not happy with my work, and that's unusual.
And that being said, you're not even losing for the year, but it doesn't matter.
The people I'm helping out are getting destroyed, so it's whether I'd be winning or losing betting is irrelevant. I actually think I'd probably be winning because the guy's not involved with extra games, and I'm like 80% on extra games. It's completely nuts, and I do no work on it. And maybe just simplifying things like that. Like, here's the two teams, I know about how good they are, and here's a number. And right. I've been right all the time. Like, I never change a rating, and that's a really good sign. Where I'm kind of like all over the place with some of these teams. I just got a lot of teams rated wrong, and I can't catch up. What I did figure out, not that anyone gives a shit, but this is part of the process, is if you're losing, all right, where are you going wrong? So I figured out that I'm giving too much for home courts. In the old days, when Iowa State went to Purdue, that home court could have been 5 or 6. Like, the home teams just won them all. The games weren't that common. There weren't a lot of big intersectional matchup. Mostly they were just buy games or local games. But now it's a big business. They changed a lot of things, and you see a lot of these big power schools traveling to each other's courts. Well, the home courts are worth almost nothing. The road team's been gold in these games. It's completely the opposite of what you expect. They're traveling to foreign grounds. The place is a madhouse, but the road team has been wildly successful in these power to power games. In the old days, that was not true. So that I figured out, and I do figure out a reason for it. Kelvin Sampson talked about in an interview how AAU ball is ruining basketball because they don't teach them how to play. They just play nonstop. So these kids, might play 9 games in a week. They're used to traveling all over the country while they're in high school. So traveling to these big arenas and having, people motherfuck them there, it doesn't phase them at all. They're comfortable with it. So I believe that's the reason these home courts have shrunk quite a bit. The other mistake I made is the big dogs have been a disaster. And there are two potential reasons for that. Number one, there was an article in the Dayton paper. Dayton had played NC Central. They were 40 ahead and won by 19, which, yeah, you don't want to embarrass the other coach. You don't want to run up the score and win by 80. However, they lost 2 net ranking points because they only won by 19. And Dayton is going to be on the bubble when the year ends. Likely, they're going to be a bubblish type team. So when they played East Tennessee State the next game, he left the starters in virtually the whole game so he wouldn't lose net ranking points, which is complete insanity. But that's what they're forced to do. He doesn't want to run up a score. Like these coaches mostly like each other. They're brethren. They're in the same boat. They're not looking to run scores up on everybody. But now they have to do it to gain net ranking points. Also, some of these dogs just, these mid-major dogs, the game means nothing to them. Conference season is everything. So if they lose by 20 or 50, the coach, just starts experimenting and putting players in that normally don't play a lot to see, maybe he can gain something out of the blowout. So the big dogs have been a disaster. So those are the two things I've come up with. I'm sure there's more. Maybe I'm not good as I once was. Maybe this NIL has affected things in ways that I can't determine. I think you're probably better off seeing how much money teams have to spend to start the year than seeing what you think the talent is, because how much you can buy typically is a reflection of the talent. So, yeah, it's not been good, but I'll give it a few more weeks to see what happens. And, if it doesn't change, then it might be time to say goodbye. And that's kind of painful. These athletes that hang on too long, it's kind of similar. I know nothing else but this. What am I going to do? I'm not going to take up a career 9 to 5 at 67 years old. Anyway, that's a few thoughts for people out there who wonder how the process works a little bit.
Yeah. So Alan, I've got a lot of good responses. I last time I checked, it was 55. It's 96 responses on YouTube again for this week's show. Everyone enjoying it. I mean, just constantly, always enjoying Boston's stories. This story about him losing his car and losing stuff made me relate to him. Lottie Green, YZ Live guy, really appreciate it. Always great stuff. Much respect. So many people, so many nice comments. I can't get to them all. Just everyone, just such a great time in Las Vegas. This is LVCC. What a great time in Las Vegas. RFB, what do you need? Miss my IP parties. 99-cent Luxor breakfast when I first opened. Just so many different people saying some nice things. This guy said to me, I have 2 different questions on the same exact subject. Let me read them both for you before you answer. Crack, please ask, this is Poker Oldie. Poker Oldie, all right. Crack, please ask Boston, how was the time he spent with Chad Millman when Millman was writing his book named The Odds? Do really enjoy your chats with Alan. And now to give that second part of that, this other person also mentioned The Odds, that he just, let's get to him. He just read the book, he said. Or I think he read the book and he wanted to know about the book. Like, what did you think? How was the turnout? Here it is. Farrow, this is a giant fan of yours. Farrow Rapek. Did his profile in the book, The Odds, change his life at all? If so, how? So what was your time with Millman, with the book, and after the book?
Okay, so one brief comment. I've always said if I do an interview, like, I'm not getting paid for this. I'm not promoting anything. And I find an interview a success if one person enjoys it or learns something. So I'm very happy to hear that the response is mostly positive. That makes this all worthwhile.
Yes.
I think people enjoy truth since we're bombarded with horseshit, pretty much 24/7. The news lies, the government lies, and it's hard to find truth. So part 2, Chad. Yeah. So Chad worked for Sports Illustrated. He'd written a column on how the opening line, I think, was developed in Las Vegas for Sports Illustrated. And he had a relationship with the Stardust. This is post Scotty Shetler. So this is Joe Lupo et al. A nice group of guys. And they asked him, Chad asked them, who's the number 1 guy for basketball? And they recommended me, which, okay, that's pretty high praise. They handled everybody in there. Chad, I was called by either Scooch or Joe Lupo. They both worked there. I forget who called me. And they asked, would you mind if we gave Chad your phone number? And he's interested in writing a book. All right. So we talk, and I spent summers in Old Orchard Beach, Maine back then. And Chad came up for the weekend. It was Rochester Fair weekend, actually. So we were going to the fair to watch a horse of mine race. And we spent the weekend together. And at the end of the weekend, I said, we watched the first episode of Freaks and Geeks, too, by the way, which is my all-time favorite TV show. So that's kind of, that gives you an idea of how long ago this is. At the end of the weekend, as I was driving him to the Portland airport, I said, I'm sorry, I can't do your book. And he said, oh, I have no book without you. I said, well, sorry, like I'm not, it was different back then. We were in gray areas with sports betting, and we were betting offshore, and I couldn't let them know that. And we were betting really big too. And I didn't really want that published. Like, it only leads to trouble. I wasn't doing anything illegal, technically. But, who needs the government up your ass because you're bragging about, not bragging, but they're writing a story about a successful guy. I paid my taxes and plenty. Mr. Walters gave me one bit of advice. Always pay your taxes.
Absolutely.
And since Mr. Walters recommended that and nothing else, that's what I listened to. So I was always honest with the IRS and everything. So they couldn't have got me on anything, but who needs the aggravation? So I told them, no, I don't really feel like sticking my chest out or being in the limelight. I said, you know what? However, I'd like to read your first book. So Chad sent me a copy of his first book, which was a history of playground basketball. He co-wrote it. It was absolutely fantastic.
Wow.
The guy could write. Like, this was very well written. This wasn't some fly-by-night nobody. This was the real deal. This guy's legit. So I called him up. I said, all right, here's the deal. We can't mention a couple things. Let's just talk about, if I make a bet, the most I ever bet in a game is 20,000. That's plenty to get people interested. Like, I didn't need to know that we had 80 or 90,000 on a game. 20 is plenty. It's a big amount that's not going to raise too many eyebrows. Also, we cannot discuss the fact that maybe there was a bet made offshore. And he said, okay. And he would come every other weekend to Las Vegas and literally sit at my house, and we'd work as I worked, and we'd talk. And, he'd ask questions on occasion, but mostly he just watched and listened, and he knew nothing about sports betting. So we had to, discuss, we had to educate him a little bit on that. We'd have dinner, and it was every other weekend. We hung out for about a year and a half, I want to say. He wrote the book, which I think was mostly good. I haven't read it in years. There were parts I thought that kind of could have been maybe cut out or edited. But yeah, I think it was a reasonable book, and I think he caught my essence pretty well. Like, as there was a lot of quick-witted stuff in there, which I think I'm pretty good with. And he actually made one statement that was very right, that where most people risking all their money would be a nervous wreck, but it's almost like I need that. It's like when I'm doing it, it's like the intensity lessens. Like I'm in my comfort zone. So yeah, that's I think it was a very good book, and it was far more successful than he thought it would be. And it triggered this whole, I'm being honest, like I think I talked about this, like before this, like, people who gambled were frowned upon. They were degenerates. They were losers. They weren't Ivy League grads who were successful and go to the gym 5 days a week. And they just weren't. So it changed the face of what a sports bettor or a gambler would or could be. And it laid the groundwork. I remember Matt Berkey, when I was playing poker with him one night, he's a very famous poker player. He said, Boston, I want to thank you for laying the groundwork for poker. And I thought about it. I said, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Because once like that book kind of legitimized sports betting. Like, they're not a bunch of idiots. They're intelligent people who work their asses off and and try to make a living. And Chad took that and ran with it. He had this ESPN Insider thing. It gave him the foundation to do this gambling section on ESPN Insider, which grew into what we have nowadays. And, legalized sports betting, which he knew was coming. Like, that was the whole point of all this, I think. I think he thought it was coming, and he wanted to be at the forefront of it. And he ended up running a huge company and doing very well for himself. So good for him. But yeah, I enjoyed my time with him. I thought the book was mostly good. And I think the impact of the book was pretty profound. Far more than people think. Not in a good way. Like, I don't like legalized sports betting. So I think DraftKings and FanDuel are disgusting. And I doubt Fanatics or ESPN Plus are much better, but yeah, anytime the government's involved, it's not good. That's me, the libertarian. And by the way, for the guy who says I'm Trump guy, no, I'm not. I'm a libertarian. The libertarian candidates sucked. I could not have Kamala Harris running this country, so I was a Trump guy, but it was more anti-Harris than pro-Trump. Also, Trump, what he said, I liked what he said. Eliminating government waste. That's very libertarian-like. It turns out he's been a total disaster. And he's like Obama Part 2. Obama promised change, and he was just more of the same. So, yeah, I'm not a Trump guy. I'm not a Trump guy.
When you were at Penn, were you a libertarian then? You were in school. You were a young age.
I was. I didn't know it.
Okay, I just wondered, because
I became a libertarian one rainy day in Old Orchard Beach, Maine. Once again, I was in Old Orchard, where Chad came up to see me, and it was raining out, so you couldn't do anything, and I channel surfed, and there was a speech going on about why the DEA needs to be abolished. And it was Harry Brown, and it was the Libertarian Convention, and he spoke for 45 minutes on why the DEA should be abolished. And I watched this like, wow, this guy is just fucking brilliant. And the whole convention was just reeked of intelligence, and it resonated big time. And right then and there, I was registered. I registered. I think in Maine you had to be an independent. That's where I was legally living. But eventually I registered as a libertarian. So yeah, the libertarian is very simple. Like, follow the Constitution. We all have a right in this country to do as we choose, as long as we don't hurt anyone else. And that's the libertarian motto. It's not the government's job to fix every problem, especially since they create most of them. So get government out of our lives, which lets us keep more of our hard-earned dollars and not tax the shit out of us for claim they need to do this, and this, when in fact the rich just get richer. Like, anyway, it's not a government show, so I'll stop. But yeah.
The number guys, this is a big fan base here. The numbers guys, Mr. Boston. Obviously, you're in the top 1% of IQ. But that being said, how were you able to handicap at such an elite level at a time when information was so hard to come by? No internet, every game wasn't on TV. How did you do it? And and could you do it the same way today?
So this may have been mentioned too. The only thing I had to work with, there was a sports ticker that ran at all the casinos. So I camp out at the Stardust every night and watch the sports ticker. They updated games every 5 minutes, I want to say, except the TV games, which were few and far between, were updated more frequently. And my memory sucks, except with college basketball, I remember virtually everything. I was able to track the games, and I talked about this before. Two games could end 2 points. One could be tied the whole way and end 2, and one where one team could be ahead 25 and win by 2. Clearly, the team ahead 25 that wins by 2 is put in a better effort than the game that was tied the whole way and a team won by 2. So I remembered how each game played out, and I took inferences from how those games played out. And yes, I still created numbers, but it was far more instinctive. I was able to take inferences from a run a team made or how well they played in a certain spot. And I remembered, all right, when did this team crack? When did the game get away from? There's a crack reference, not intentional.
Huh.
So a game could end 20, but if it's tied with 8 minutes to go, clearly, the last 8 minutes didn't matter. So there was a lot of nuance like that, which, is known to all handicappers. It's nothing profound or genius, but I was able to use that where there wasn't a lot of information out there. There was no way to read anything. So I knew sometimes a 20-point game was actually much, much closer, and took advantage of that. And when I was at my best, I just kind of knew what moment to refer to in the past that was relevant to the game being played now. There were far fewer teams being booked. And I came up with something that was very, very good. And that's how I did it. I watched the sports ticker and took inferences of how the game played out. No, I can't do that nowadays because it's all out there. I have no edge in being aware of how the game played out. I still think it's important, but the game has changed so much where it's where 11 players transfer. Teams are all new every year. The coaches I like sometimes struggle. David Riley, who's the coach of Washington State, who I love, who I've lost a fortune on this year, he talked in the press conference about, my system takes a long time to learn. And I'm catching my players thinking, what am I supposed to do instead of just playing? So I had to dumb it all down. And all that kind of stuff is where I know how good a coach is with this group of players. It's not necessarily the case anymore. Where if you run some complex system and have no one coming back, they're not going to get it in game 1 or game 5, and they might not even get it in game 20. And then the coach has to adjust, and maybe he's not as good at what he's trying to teach them as what he truly wants to implement. So, yeah, it becomes more of a talent over coaching, I believe. This is just a guess. And that's why some of these injury games that have been blasted, which in years past to me didn't mean shit, are holding up at a very good level because it's more this team has this individual talent and not this coach coaching this group. 11 becomes one number. It's now 11 is 1A plus B plus C plus D plus D plus E equals the number. So rather than one group of players becoming one, it's individuals becoming one. And when one of those individuals is hurt, it could impact the power rating far more than it once did. That's my guess as to part of my struggle and to why injury games are holding up much better than they once did. This is all just me being logical, but this is how I do it. I try to figure out where I'm going wrong. You have to learn from your mistakes. You're never going to get better. And I'm making a shit ton of them this year, I assure you.
This leads to our next question by, I love the name, Petey Pickles. Petey Pickles asks, what was the biggest variable in NCAA college basketball that Allen did not handicap correctly? For example, I always heard him being overly critical of big-name coaches, and it seemed to affect his handicapping to his detriment, especially during March Madness.
Oh, I would disagree with that totally. I bet against Krzyzewski and printed money in the NCAA tournament. No, when there was a 45-second clock, the coaching was everything. You could control tempo. You can run this complex offense and make lives miserable for favorites. And coaches mattered a shit ton. I don't think it was to my detriment at all. I mean, I'm betting my money on it, and I was successful, so I was doing something right. And a lot of it was that I knew some coaches were overrated. The variable I get wrong, and by the way, now that there's a 30-second clock, that is far less important, which is why, partly the reason why a lot of these favorites just crushed in the first round of the tournament last year. I got killed in the first round of the tournament last year. Those type games have won for years, and almost none of them won this year. And that if I make it that far, I have to think about that. It could just been an outlier, or it could be that 30-second clock, which has been around for a while, the 30-second clock in combination with a more open game and a more tending towards higher scoring games is making it harder on dogs. Also, the NIL may affect it too, where if there's continuity within a program, then the guy who's 7th or 8th or 9th best in a team is familiar with the system and will come in and not be so bad. But now with NIL, where everyone's new, some of these guys who are 7, 8, or 9 on the bench, and they come in a close game, and the game just gets away from them because they're not good enough. That's part of it. The variable I fuck up most is home court. I've struggled with that a lot in the last few years. And it's been ever changing, and I think it's a big hole in my game. The other variable I mentioned actually both these to start the show is these big favorites. Like I could just skip them completely. unless I think the 20-point dog has a chance to win. I just kind of just skip it now because I don't.
When you say home court, are you not giving home court teams enough?
I was giving them too much for home for sure.
Giving them too much for home,
right?
Okay.
But I mean, Mick Cronin talked about how UCLA was, they have a losing record in games east of the Mississippi. This is a program that won championship after championship after championship in the 70s, and it's still a very, very good team. But they have a losing record east of the Mississippi because the West-East travel used to be worth like 8 points in an early game. Like the home court just killed them. Like you had no chance. That is no longer the case. So stuff that's in my head, and when you're doing it 30-odd years, it's hard to break that habit. And, I just have to figure it out. But I figured it out too late that I'm just giving these home teams too much money, too much credit. And, in conference, it always gets lower because they're all familiar with everything. And the travel isn't as intense. But I used to think that travel was everything. I didn't care about fans screaming. If there was no one at the game, who cares? It's how hard is it to get there and get acclimated to the court you're playing on. But that is no longer the case. And I think the AAU, they get comfortable with all that. And also, I think the student there's less. I think there's less energy at a lot of these games too. The students aren't showing up. A lot of coaches have talked about that. It's a new world. They sit in their phones. And also, you can't get some allegiance to these players. They're there 1 year, gone the next. It's not like they're staying 4 years where you get to know them and they're easier to root for. Now they feel like traitors. Just go for the next money. So I don't blame these kids for not going to the games. Like, who wants to go watch the Steve play and then they're gone the next year because there's no honor or loyalty. It's just a money grab, and I don't blame them. I'd grab the highest bidder too, but it's ruining the game, I think.
If you broke down what time of year, the beginning of the year, now, maybe towards conference tournaments, March Madness, what have you been more successful in? What have you not been more successful in?
I think that's been completely random.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's been completely random. I've been brilliant to start the year and brilliant in the middle of the year. Last year I sucked at the end of the year. But I recall the best year we ever had is we were up like 1.1 million in December. In February we were losing. And
that's great.
And then we ended up winning a fortune. Like I won virtually every game I swept the NCAA tournament virtually that year. So wow. Yeah, the only thing I can say is I hope it gets better towards the middle and the end of this year, or else I'm going to be one retired handicapper, which maybe should have happened a long time ago. Like, I mean, I am good at this. Like, I'm not bragging saying that. Like, I do have respect in the industry, but I'm not so sure I deserve it anymore, to be honest.
This one I'm going to think I know the answer to, but I want to ask anyway. NFL Streets, what does he think the gambling and the poker scene will be like when New York City, because New York City has ruled yes on poker casinos a couple days ago. They're going to build 3 billion-dollar casinos outside of New York City. Have you ever played? And also, have you ever played in NYC underground poker, the poker scene? I
played once at the Mayfair Club.
Oh, I didn't know you did. Okay.
Yeah, I played 7-card stud there one night. That's it.
Okay.
That's my whole. I actually lived in New York City for a few months. I worked at Hammaker Schlemmer. The last job I had that was for pay. Oh no, actually I worked at a state hospital for a year after that. That was a cool job. That was a cool store. That was the original gadget store on 57th, 57th and between 1st and 2nd, I think.
I didn't know that. What year was that?
I have no idea what I think New York City is losing its luster a little bit, and it's about to be a complete disaster.
Yeah.
Under this crazy person they elected, but
yeah,
I was actually rooting for him. Like Cuomo is one of the more reprehensible humans on the planet, and for him to have the audacity to go run again just shows you how fucked up this country is. You can't find someone better than him. He kills a bunch of people, tries to cover it up, or he didn't directly kill them, but he gave bad advice, which caused a lot of people to die, and then tries to cover it up, and then writes a book about how wonderful he did about it and gets this big advance. And all right, there's allegations against him. There's often allegations against people. That doesn't mean anything, but the fact that he resigned means there might have been some truth to it. Yeah, he is really, really disgusting.
Okay. Alan,
I can't answer to New York City. I'm not a New York guy, and it'll be good for New York to get more tax revenue so they can waste it.
Yeah. Any Chip Reese or Doyle Brunson stories?
They're a little before my time. They played bigger than me. I spent some time with Chip at his place in Montana. He was always a gentleman, super solid poker player. He went to Dartmouth, very smart guy. He felt it like a bit of a phony to me, if I'm being honest. Like, anyone's always like nice and always saying the right thing. Like, I don't know. But I have absolutely no beef with Chip. He was always nice to me and always a gentleman, but he's not my type. Like, I like to be a little rough around the edges.
Alan,
I think
the guy's being nice, and he's always being nice. I don't like that.
Because it felt like horseshit. You can't always be nice.
Okay.
Right? We're human. We get angry. We say bad things. We say stupid things. Like, it's just, we're flawed. That's the nature of being human. Doyle, I don't know that well, but I loved him. Like, he was a gambler to the core, and he was fearless when he bet. He bet sports sky high, didn't give a fuck. Always had a nice word to say to me, but not just, when we said, "Hey, Red, how you doing?" Like, just, and he was a great poker player to the end. And I found him a little more on the honest side. It seems like, he knew, he talked about the cheating in the old days, and, it was kind of like the kill or be killed theory. And I was definitely a fan of Doyle. But I have no stories with Doyle. I never hung out with him, and I hung out with Chip just on a couple-day vacation in Montana.
Brock Landers asked, in today's environment, it's harder to win as a sports bettor. Do you prefer offshore or onshore books? And do you monitor a line service? If so, which one or which books?
I don't bet, so I can't answer that.
Okay.
And I don't monitor any line services. I don't care. I think I talked about this on one of the prior things where, I just think I'm really good at this, and I don't give a shit who bets what. And I don't care who has if I'm betting into a sharp office and they have the sharp line, I don't care. Okay. I wouldn't expect it. That's just me personally. That doesn't make it right. But that's me personally. I had so much faith in what I was doing that I don't give a shit who bets what, or the sharpest office in the world has 3 and everyone's 3.5. If I like the favorite, I'm laying 3 there for whatever they'll take.
So even if Circa has it or Chris or Pinnacle,
don't care. Matter. Just bet. But that's me. I'm not saying that's right. If you think an office is sharp, you certainly should respect it and maybe give thought to what you're doing. But I don't think that's a recipe for success. Like, I think you have to have 100% faith in what you're doing. People could argue that and argue successfully, but personally, that's just the way I have to do it.
Alan, do you know, Eddie Cox asked, anyone or do you know an old gambler named Paulie who got his eye punched out at the Stardust, or a guy, John Kelly? Well, we do know John Kelly. He used to do sports betting segments. I do know John Kelly. I knew who he was. He had a couple sites, and I think he moved out of the country now. And Paulie, I don't know. Do you know anything about that guy?
I remember Scotty got his eye. There was a guy, Scotty, who got his eye punched out, who was at the lottery all the time. He did his own thing and bet his own money, but I didn't know any Paulie. I knew a Scotty got his eye punched out. He ended up being One-Eyed Scotty. Like, that's obvious nickname, but that's all I know. He was a regular at the lottery and a gentleman.
Okay, Steeple 6869 asked, I stay at the Desert Inn and sit at a blackjack table on one of those comfortable clamback leather chairs.
Yeah.
Beautiful cocktail service and a cigarette server ready to light you up instantly.
Yeah.
And then stumble out at 7 a.m. and go to Circus for an amazing $1.99 breakfast buffet. Those were the days. Cash was king and customer service was its queen.
100% accurate. You can't say it any better than that.
I love that. I just thought
DI was the best, and the $1.99 breakfast were always. They wanted you to have a good time. They wanted you in their casino. Like, I can't say it enough. They've completely lost their way with, Vegas is going to be in trouble if they continue this, charge for parking and resort fees and everything's overpriced. There's too many places to go, and Vegas isn't that big a deal anymore. It used to be the only game in town. Then came Atlantic City, then came here, and it's nationwide now. So, who gives a shit about Vegas? It's still got a name, but that is going to dwindle as it becomes more expensive and more crowded. And if it's possible, more disgusting than it already is. I don't know if it's possible. It's completely flipped from the greatest city in the world to the most disgusting one that I've ever visited.
That's such a great compliment.
But yeah, his story is perfect.
I would have loved to have been there. Jesus.
The DI was amazing. Like I told you that story with a guy, you know, I stayed there one night and I had a bill to pay and I had the stamped envelope and the guy in a tuxedo grabbed it. He said, let me put that in the mailbox for you. He just grabbed it out of me as I was walking, like black tie Chinese restaurants. I had the same 3 guys wait on me at the Portofino room for 25 years. You know, it was just a different world and certainly a better one in my opinion. Like,
oh, definitely.
You felt so much at home in these places. You didn't feel like you're getting your eyes ripped out, and then they'd laugh at you when you're out at, you know, when you had no money. You could be broke and still be welcome there. Like it was.
Was the Portofino their gourmet restaurant?
That was their Italian gourmet. They had a steakhouse next to it, but the Portofino overlooked the casino.
Oh wow!
It was a beautiful. Yeah, and I don't eat Italian, but they had other stuff that I could eat. I always took people there. It was
right.
Yeah, Pepe, Paul, and Mike. Those were the 3 guys.
You remember them all?
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Was it like black tie, maitre d', rose colored, like that kind of maitre d' also?
Yeah, the maitre d' was in a tux for sure. They also had 2 lounges, one where you paid and one that was free. But they had great acts in both of them. But again, you know, I'd go there early if I had tickets to the show. I would see the guy who did the seating, and he'd get, you know, I probably gave him $50, make sure we get a good table. And that's how it worked.
Yep.
He said cash was king. Exactly. You just took people, they took care of you, and yeah.
Alan, there's restaurants in Vegas right now, 3 or 4 of them. I could give $100 bill, and I'm not getting in tonight. $100 bill. They wouldn't even care. You're not getting in. Yeah, it's unbelievable. These casinos, these big fancy restaurants.
Weird.
It's so weird, isn't it? It really is.
That is weird. Carbone
at Aria, you're not getting in. Carbone, the new one at Bellagio, you're not getting in. Steakhouse at the steakhouse at Monte Carlo, what's it called now? Park MGM, Bavette's, you're not getting in. Maybe Peter Luger's, you're not getting in.
Is it Peter Luger's in Vegas now?
Yeah, Peter Luger's in Vegas now. Yep.
Great.
Next guy, dark side of crypto. Boston just has no fear. It's really wild. Ask him what he's going to do next spring or summer. Oh, I'll figure it out and play poker or slot machines. I used to live like that in my 20s, Mr. Boston. I can't imagine doing it pushing 70 now. Some guys are just built different. Wild idea. But how about teaching summer school, ? Even at this point, with your degree and really no regard for what he'd be paid for, he may be surprised if he actually attempted to do it. Interesting.
He is bang on. Like I've wanted to teach high school English virtually my entire life. I chose the gambling field because I wanted to make money. And there was a point I remember where I was ready to retire, come back home, and I had actually written out a whole year of English teaching. And in fact, to go back to Chad, I asked Chad, if I teach high school English, would you come in and be a guest lecturer on magazine writing or writing for a newspaper he said, absolutely. So I had the whole year in my head, and I decided to do basketball one more year. And that was a big mistake. It was kind of downhill from, I mean, we won, but again, if you're spending $300,000 a year and you make $100,000, the money doesn't stay very long. And then the housing market crashed, and I ended up dead in the water. But I actually applied to substitute teach a couple of years ago, and then they wanted me to upload everything. I don't know how to upload anything.
Sure.
So I talked to someone who teaches locally, and he said, just go talk to the people in the office, explain to them who you are. You're an Ivy League grad. I've done a lot of private tutoring in my life successfully. I substitute taught in the 80s, loved it, and they might be able to help you out. I'm sure they will. They're desperate for substitute teachers. So yeah, if I quit by January, I'll be attempting to substitute teach. So yeah, he's bang on. I would love to do it.
Okay, this guy, horse racing tip. That's his name. Krackman, who was the bookmaker Alan worked for in Boston back in the day? The late Joe, your Lardy from Newton? Question mark.
No, I worked for Howie Levinson at first. I owed him money. I was on the lam, and he got a hold of me. He said, "Come back here. We'll work it off. Don't worry about it." I said, "Okay," and that was in the book, the odds actually. That was interesting. And then I worked for who did I work for? I hate to name names, but it's 40 years ago, so who cares? Jimmy Katz and Frank Russo. And then I worked for Richie Brown, who was mentioned in the book about the black what's the name of the killer, Whitey Bulger.
Oh, Whitey Bulger.
On page 1 of the Whitey Bulger book. I said, whoa. So those are the guys I work for, all people in Boston. There was Chico Kranz. He was a legend up there. He passed away many, many, many years ago. He had a crush on my mother in high school. Chico Kranz. Well, no, I don't know that. I don't know Joe.
Okay.
No.
Along the same lines here.
Nice area.
Yeah, along the same lines here. I think this was involving Whitey Bulger. Maybe it was involving. It's either Whitey Bulger's crew or it was the Gambino crime family. This was about. James Rhodes asked, "Crack, thanks for getting Alan to discuss the history of the Stars." Okay, opening line that I requested. Okay, just wondering if he had any suspicions cross his mind as the Arizona point shaving played out, or any other situations that arose we never heard of. Back in the heyday, how would he track his bets for the... Okay, let's answer the first point. So, yeah, did you ever have any suspicions about point shaving of the Arizona?
You're talking about Arizona State. I think he's talking about Arizona State.
Yeah.
Because Arizona was different. I actually got that right. They said they had a phone call with the Arizona coach. I think it might have been Sean Miller, saying that he paid $100,000 for a player, and I actually did a radio show in Memphis and said that no, the going rate years ago was $200,000. So this player would cost a lot more than $100,000. So that's got to be horseshit, which it turned out to be. The Arizona State thing is interesting. I was betting Friday night at the Mirage. Mr. Vaccaro was there, and I believe I bet Arizona State -11 against Oregon. I want to say it was Friday for Saturday. I would do a lot of betting the night before because they took big bets in Vegas, and I could get down a shit ton before I even, before the offshores opened to big limits in the morning. So, we ran around town every Friday for Saturday because the lines were up and got down quite a bit, actually. As soon as I laid the 11, there was a kid down on the other end who took it back. And I know I'm right. The lines did move against me back then. But I've never seen this kid before. And I asked Mr. Vaccaro, "Do you know who this kid is?" He said, "I've never seen him before." I said, "That's a very strange bet that some young kid is betting the limit on against Arizona State." So I didn't bet it again. I thought maybe he knew something. Well, boy, did he ever know something.
Wow. Wow.
However, game 2, where it didn't take long for everybody to know that they robbed the game. And they were robbing the next game, and the game went from 9-1. I laid it. I said, there's no way that this is going to happen again. And of course, they were down $1 million at the half. And the coach went into halftime. He said, "I don't know what the fuck is going on here, but it's going to stop right now." And he benched a bunch of the players, and they came back and won the game. So we actually won that bet. But I lost a fortune on that first Arizona State game. I think most. So. I think most of the betting scandals are bullshit. That's what I think. They were talking about some Tulsa, Mississippi Valley State game as being dumped. Now, how much fucking money do you think you can bet on Tulsa, Mississippi Valley State? And I remember the game. I actually bet Tulsa that game. I made it 28 and it opened 22. So it just went up because the number was wrong. Not because Mississippi Valley State was dumping a fucking game. What I think happens, and I'm glad this is asked because I love to get this out. There's a service that all these places hire to monitor whether everything's on the square. Well, they're not in business unless they find something. So they dig up all this horse shit. Although I guess someone actually got convicted of dumping. So, I'm not totally right, but almost everything they dig up is just horse shit. I remember all the games, And I remember the lines were just wrong and they moved, you know. I know there's some first half anomalies, but that could be a modeling thing, you know. That's not my field, so I don't know. But I could see some model finding out that a team typically is very good in the first half, or the coach is very good at creating a game plan that keeps them in the first half, and then the other team adjusts for it. There's reasons why a first half could be way different than a game. So I think that's the service just inventing shit so they can continue to make the millions of dollars every year. And, you know, it's just a common theme. Everything's bullshit. And I think they're completely full of shit too. Like the sports betting monitoring thing for the sanctity of the sport. They don't give two shits about that. They just want the money. They don't give a fuck if they rob it.
They have casinos subscribe to them. So casinos are paying for them.
Right.
And you have, the organizations now paying for them too. So
you don't need them.
Yeah.
Mr. Vaccaro's the one that called.
Yes.
And said something's wrong.
Yeah.
You didn't need a sports betting service. You need someone who knows what he's doing, which, by the way, most of these places don't know what they're doing. Say, you know, this ain't right. Like there's some stranger here betting Oregon State 6 times. Like, yeah. Against Boston, no less. Like, you know, Vaccaro respected me. I won. I printed money doing this back then. Like, and I'm betting one side. Here's some kid he's never seen betting the other side. And the line's plummeting like and no one was injured. So he figured it out. Something ain't right.
This guy must have been at your house in the past. LVCC 5203. I remember when you invited strangers to March Madness at your house. You've had 2 beautiful Danes. Who does that? And he mentions Bella. What a great Thursday, he said. Yeah, that was the good old days of that. But I'm trying to think. Did you have Bella?
Yeah, I had Bella. Dewey came along before.
Oh, Dewey was before. Okay. Dewey was before that. Okay. I was
but actually, when did I have that? Yeah, no, I was doing that. I did that the year my dad passed away, so it was Bella. Yeah.
Bella. It was Bella, yeah.
Yeah, I did that just because why not? Like, I don't give a fuck about money. So, you know, and, you know, I understood that people enjoyed my banter for better or for worse. So invite them over. Who cares?
Yeah.
I wasn't the greatest host, but, you know, I tried.
I want to read this to you here so people see this. This is Pala Casino, and I'm going to read what this says. This is about slot machines. This is posted at their casino cage. I took the photo. You can see a counting machine in the background. I took the photo right at the casino cage. A friendly reminder about playing slots using someone else's player's card. Any jackpot won by a guest using another person's card will not be paid. This includes the card of spouses, relatives, and close friends. So now what we're talking about here is someone reached out to me recently from California and said, Crack, you won't believe this. My wife and I were playing at a slot machine that had a double seat bench, and my card was in, but she was pushing the button, and they actually gave me a hard time before paying us. Wow. Your wife with the same name was at the slot machine? What balls these fucking places have doing something like that? That gets me mad. I mean,
that's the nature of the world. They have a little bit of power and they try to just abuse people. Like FanDuel and DraftKings are the worst. They try to fuck people over left and right.
Give me an example of something you're talking about.
I was approached by someone. I never followed up on it because I was just asked for advice. My friend who I play poker with said, I have a friend who bet the Orioles. This was a couple of years ago. They were having a home run year. He bet them to win the pennant, the World Series, and the division. And he was about to win like a shit ton of money. And FanDuel sent him a cash out. They always had the cash out option.
Sure.
They sent it to him. He didn't ask for it. And he said, well, you broke some rule that they had about multiple bets, but and they just sent it to him. He said, what's he supposed to do? I said, number 1, don't cash the check. Number 2, hire a lawyer. Because if they were worried about this, they would have said something back in March when he made the bets, not in September when they're about to lose $2 billion. So that's one example. But they're I don't recall them, but there's myriad of examples where DraftKings put a rule in. This is it in a nutshell. DraftKings put a rule in. If you have information that we're not privy to, we have the right not to pay you. Now, can you fucking imagine?
I called you that day.
Where that bets $200 and LeBron James is out and he wins the bet. Well, we're not paying you because you had What?
I was on VSiN that day. I called you that day. What Alan's referring to, I actually called him and said, listen to this. I just talked about this new policy they have. It was a backup running back. And they said, well, if you bet the backup running back to score a touchdown and the main running back starter gets pulled, doesn't play the game, we have a right to cancel that second ticket based on us thinking you had the knowledge of that player being out. I talked about it I talked about the good and bad. DraftKings took $1,000 at the counter at Foxwoods for me. They were absolutely fantastic. Got along with, always gave them good press. They paid me 6 figures on Banchero. They paid me a lot of things. They were very good to me. But I talked about this policy and how I don't think it's right. Right when I got off air, I got a phone call from Foxwoods, my casino host, saying, hey, they listen to you in the office here. The DraftKings office listens to you, and they don't want your business no more. Your max bet's $250. Just because I had a comment on it. And I called you instantly. I said, do you believe this? I can't even believe they lowered my bet 20 minutes after I got off air because I just talked about something. I just, and to be honest with you, I'm always going to.
And you spoke the truth.
I'm always going to get in there.
You spoke the truth.
Yeah, I just rebutted what I thought wasn't right on their policy.
Of course it's not right. It's insanity. But that's the problem when things get legalized and the government's involved. DraftKings and FanDuel, they spent millions of dollars to lock up Vermont. I was actually asked to help with legalized betting in Vermont. Now, what they did with marijuana was they kept it local only. Only Vermonters can own dispensaries in Vermont and grow. It's fantastic. That's the way it's supposed to be. And I suggested you should do the same with sports betting. Have people build little bars or little sports bars or even a fancy hotel where you can invite people from New York to spend the weekend, and go see the foliage while I bet the NFL. Like there's ideas you can use there. And the senator that we were involved with was on the committee. And when he brought these ideas to him to keep it local, he was now off the committee. So FanDuel and DraftKings locked up Vermont, which wasn't very smart because there's only like 750,000 people in Vermont. And most of them live in the middle of nowhere and don't give two shits about sports betting. So They're getting their asses kicked there. But the point is they have these lobbyists in there donating millions to these campaigns, and they're not going to rule against them.
Right.
And that's not how America's supposed to be. But that's the problem with our government in a nutshell is these lobbyists have way too much power. So DraftKings and FanDuel have all this power, so they don't give a shit what they do.
So going back to that original,
they want
that little placard I seen they're posted all over Palo Casino in California.
Oh yeah. I have a story from yesterday that parallels that.
Okay, go ahead.
My buddy comes every Sunday, Monday, to Mohegan, which by the way is an amazing casino. Like
beautiful casino. I love Mohegan.
And they're total class acts all the way.
Yeah.
I can't say the same about Foxwoods, but
okay.
Mohegan's amazing. My host is fantastic. I like to dabble in slots, for better or for worse. Yesterday was for better. So my buddy and I, we play partners, and it was a $3 a spin duck game, or I don't even know what it was.
A new bonus game, though? There was a little bit of an edge?
Who knows? We like playing the game. So we hit the free games, and we have $19. Not very good. The last spin, we get into the spin bonus, and we just crush it. And we hit the wheel bonus, which is one of the available bonuses. There's 3. There's explode and bounty, that's the other one, and wheel. So I never hit the wheel bonus before. So we hit the wheel bonus, and it's all over. And I get the 5x multiplier. And we during the bonus, we hit explode twice, which means the gun shoots at the spot and increases the value of it. So we got 10 increases in value. So we got to the top number on 3 or 4 spaces, which is a lot. And now it's multiplied times 5. Like I look at my buddy and said, holy fuck, this could be a hand pay. Like it's $3 a spin now. Well, luckily it was $1,190, which is below the hand pay. But unfortunately, we already had $19 in there.
Right.
Now it's a hand pay. And now I realize, oh, fuck, his card's in there. I'm spinning. He's right next to me. Same thing with the husband and wife thing. It's a 2-seat thing. And we play partners. We always do it. Thank God I knew the kid who came over. He said, next time just tell us you're playing partners. It's okay. Like they didn't try to screw me.
Right.
No, your card wasn't in there, but just next time, just tell us in advance. So they handled it really, really well. I'm a good customer, and this kid is too. Like, you don't want to drive us out over something that was entirely innocent. We weren't doing anything nefarious.
He was there. Yeah.
We play partners.
Yeah.
And sometimes, we put his card in or I put my card in. Like, we kind of just switch it off, and I forgot to switch it off when it was my turn to spin. And, there was nothing, there was no malice.
Yeah.
But that place there that you're talking about probably would be like arguing with, we're not paying you.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
I'd want to pay someone. You want to pay people and brag about it.
How about these different groups and stuff that go around card building? I know they arrested someone in Pennsylvania a couple of weeks ago, a big name. I'm not going to say who it is, but they arrested a big name. And a couple of years ago, they arrested a giant name in poker for having like 15 cards. This guy had 12 a couple of weeks ago. I agree with that. You're picking up free play for other people. They're agreeing to it. They're signing up for a card. They're getting a piece of the free play. You're putting volume through, and you're playing with someone else's card, and they're considered cheating. And now you can actually get arrested with multiple people's cards. I know a kid who does a lot of slots who got arrested for that at Twin River. Wow.
The case, he got ratted on.
Gotcha.
I saw his parents, and I said, "Show me a picture of the guy ratted on him in case I run into him. We'll make his life miserable if we can." Kid's a sweetheart. Doesn't bother anybody. Doesn't.
Yeah.
The case is going to get thrown out. That's what they think. I mean, what are you arresting him for?
Right.
I think it was his grandmother's card. Like, it wasn't like some.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think those people are disgusting. Everyone has to try to earn a living, and if you can fuck a casino, so be it. But if I owned a casino, those card builders would be out immediately.
The card builders.
If I had an opportunity to arrest them, I would. Like, it's not good for the casino. And oftentimes the card builders can be assholes too. Like,
yeah, that's true. No, that's true. Well, listen, we've been on an hour here, and this is another great show, and look forward to the comments and your questions. Thank you, everyone, for commenting and liking, and we're going to continue chugging along here. Thanks again. Thanks, Alan.
All right, be good. Have fun, everybody.